Well, here we are. Good morning. Over the years of attending here at Harbor UU, I've really enjoyed when people have shared their personal journeys and their personal stories. I can't guarantee you're going to enjoy this, but hopefully you will know me better and will have a deeper connection. I'd like to start by asking for a show of hands for those of you that were raised in a UU family.
1, 2.
Thank you. That's kind of what I figured. So my point with that is that most of us have arrived here from different directions and different traditions. But we end up at the same place with common values that bind us together. I do want to put a little disclaimer out here before I start. I'm talking about my path to becoming a Unitarian Universalist, and I'm going to talk about some other religious traditions. I am not doing that as a theologian or an expert of any kind. These are my personal experiences and my personal opinions. That's all. I generally see myself as somebody that looks at evidence. I think analytically, critically. I look at the facts. But there's this other side of me that has deep intuition. And occasionally, it's not all the time, I have a profound experience where I feel like I just know something. Hence the book I chose for the story for all ages. Whether you want to call it deja vu or prima facie knowing, I don't know what it is, but I've experienced it different times in my life. And it's almost like this resonance, this vibration where I just know something. I've experienced it when I've read certain things, when I've visited certain places, when I've met certain people like Dan Martin Mills, and I felt it when I came here for the first time. And I'll get into that a little more later. My early religious life was in a home with dichotomous messages. My mother is a religious person, not overly religious, but she is a regular church participant and attendee. And like Amber, she made me go with her, and there was compromises along the way. My father probably would have been considered an agnostic. He had no use for organized religion of any kind, although I think he was a deeply spiritual person. I will give them credit. I never saw them argue about this. This was just the norm. Mom went to church, Dad did not. And so I think that dichotomy kind of laid the groundwork for me to question and try to make sense of religious experiences. Since my mom was the more religious by normal standards, I will kind of start with her background. Her early childhood, and I'm not sure exactly when this changed, but her very early childhood was spent in the Christian Reformed Church. That's the church her mother attended, her mother's family. Now, her family was very poor, and when my grandmother became ill for a protracted period of time, and my grandfather was frequently laid off from his steelworker job, the church harassed them for not paying their tithes. So rather than supporting and lifting up, they were harassed for being poor. My grandfather, typical Swede, of conflict avoidant, but stubborn. He said, "That's it, we're done, we're never going back." And he took the family to his family's church, which is Samuel Lutheran Church, which was the Swedish Lutheran Church. Now, Lutherans are really diverse. There's all these different synods, and they are really different. There are some that make the Baptists look liberal, and then there's pretty liberal ones. And Samuel's always been on the liberal end. So the only trauma I experienced growing up was that I was painfully shy as a child. And Samuel is downtown Muskegon, and I grew up in North Shores. So none of my neighbors no people I knew were there. So that was the trauma, was going to church where I had to interact with strangers. But the minister that was there my whole upbringing was Russell Johnson, very liberal, very intellectual. He brought people in of all faiths to give services. He liked to remind us that our way might feel right to us, but it wasn't right for everyone. In confirmation classes, I learned that God speaks to different people in different ways, and we should not judge them. So that didn't leave a whole lot of scars. Then I went to college, and I chose to go to Hope College for a number of reasons. The main one was I was a theater person. They had a very good theater program, and they had a professional summer repertory company. And I remember as a high school student talking to the recruiter going, I'm not Dutch, I'm not Calvinist. Is this going to be a problem? Oh, no. Recruiters tell you whatever they want you to believe. He goes, we've gotten rid of mandatory chapel, we welcome people of all faiths, it's going to be fine. So off I go to Hope College. They did have religious course requirements. So I believe, it's been a long time now, I had to take 3 courses. So I took my first one, my freshman year. It was called The Phenomenology of Religion. And it was a study of the world's religions, kind of in chronological order. I thought, well, that doesn't sound too bad. That's going to be interesting, not too much indoctrination there. This is going to be okay. We get to the Reformation, and it starts with John Calvin. They leave the part out about burning heretics at the stake, of course, but it was pretty much all about John Calvin. And at the end of the lecture, the professor said, oh, by the way, are there any Lutherans here? And it was a big class by Hope standards. I'd guess 80 to 100 people. 3 hands went up. He says, I suppose you're wondering what we did with Martin Luther. He goes, as far as we're concerned, he never left the Catholic Church. Lutherans and Catholics are the same. Always the smartass and a mouth that goes faster than my common sense. I said, do the Catholics know that? Have you informed them? That's a humorous story, but that was the first of the cognitive dissonance that set in around Christianity and how different faiths experience it when I was at Hope. My least favorite tenet of Calvinism is something called visible signs of God's love. And this is closely tied to a belief in predestination. Now, as this was explained to me by theology professors, and maybe this is off, memory is plastic, we sometimes change things. The basic idea is that it is determined, either before or at birth, whether you're saved or damned. And if you are saved, there will be visible signs of God's love. How I saw that enacted by people of power in 1970s in Holland, Michigan was wealth first, academic success, good looks, athletic ability. God loves you. We can tell. We're going to treat you nicely. Oh, you look different? You're poor? You have some disability? Sorry, you're not going to heaven. And we can treat you any way we want. Now, this is way oversimplifying and extrapolating out in a very broad sense, but the Boers who settled South Africa were Calvinists. This is the underpinnings of apartheid. Now, some religions would say visible signs of God's love are, you have an obstacle to overcome. You have to learn and grow and understand people's pains. That was not the case, at least not where I was. Another thing that was happening to me at the same time was I took my first philosophy class. and fell in love. So in addition to being a theater major, I declared a philosophy major. Hope had a small but brilliant philosophy department. And I got taught the history of thought, critical thinking, and how to question everything. And so when I started applying that to religion and spirituality, I could not stay where there was dogma and creed, regardless of what it was. My early church experiences were mostly positive, and I didn't see, not that it didn't happen, but I didn't see harm being done to people at my church, but I could not, in all good faith, stand up and say things in church services that I did not believe. And so I left organized religion altogether for years. I went to graduate school in the Twin Cities, so I moved to Minneapolis first and then to St. Paul. There's an old saying that nature abhors a vacuum. Now, one of my knowings has always been for me that there's something beyond the physical. There's something that connects us, whether you want to call that God, the collective unconscious, the light within, the still quiet voice, whatever you want to call it. I've always believed in it, and it's important to me. And so I was always searching. I would read about different religious traditions, Buddhism, Hinduism, transcendentalism, paganism. And somewhere along there, and I can't even tell you the particulars, I encountered the Society of Friends, or Quakers. And I started reading about them and went, oh my gosh, there's something I can believe. There's something that makes sense. And the things that created that deep resonance in me were the lack of dogma or creed. There is a personal connection to the divine that is there for anyone. The focus on social justice and activism, the belief that there is that of God in everyone, and it should be respected, and that's the basis of nonviolence, and that looking to the metaphorical light for guidance. All of these things, I got really excited about this. I thought, oh my gosh, I have found my place. And so this is pre-Google, pre-internet, at least for peasants like me. So I went in the Yellow Pages, and I found that very near me was a Society of Friends meeting at Macalester College in St. Paul. And for several years, I attended. Intermittently, but I attended regularly. I took classes, I volunteered, I went to protests. This was the first Gulf War when this was going on. This was an unprogrammed meeting, and it's the only meeting I ever attended regularly. There was no structure to the meeting. You came in, you sat, there was silence. People usually closed their eyes and waited to feel called upon to speak. Only once did I go through a meeting that was completely silent. I was just in awe and had so much respect for the eloquence and wisdom that came out of these people. Occasionally, someone stood and sang. My shyness kind of overrode any messages I got, so I never stood up and did that. But I never in all that time made a personal connection. I chalked it up to my shyness. Everyone was polite. They would smile and say good morning. Nothing beyond that. And I mean, I took classes. I tried to connect. I had a friend at the time, and we'd fallen out of touch, and then we reconnected. And this guy, everybody loved. He was that person. He was not boisterous, but warm and gentle, had a twinkle in his eye. Everybody loved Philip. Everybody that ever met him. I remember going to pick my best friend up at the airport who was coming for a visit. Philip went with me, and she went, he is so cool. You know, everybody loved Philip. Anyway, I'm talking to Philip about my experience, and he's chuckling, and I said, what? He goes, Michelle, several years earlier, I had the exact same experience at that meeting. And so I felt better. I thought, if Philip didn't fit in, I don't feel so bad about me now. Anyway, I did have other friends, so I would talk to them about this, and because most of them were very deep people, and several people suggested I check out the Unitarian Universalists. And I'm like, what's that? And they said, well, we don't know a lot, but it sounds, from what we know, sounds like you'd be a good fit there. There's a congregation in Minneapolis on the other side of the river. It was always on my to-do list to get there. But I moved back to Michigan in 2000, December of 2000, and I never made it. But still seeking and knowing I was home, I wanted to find a home, get the yellow pages out, which pretty much doesn't exist anymore, and I saw there was a Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. And in January 2001, I came, and I felt that resonance. I felt that vibration like I was coming home when I walked in this building. Nana Cradaville was doing the service. I can't tell you what it was about, but it felt like it was for me. And the people were so warm and welcoming and interested in me as a person that I've stayed. I took the new member class and became a member in November of that year. Now, I haven't wanted to read from my notes, but I am going to wrap this up by reading a little bit because I don't want to miss anything. The Quakers and the UUs share a lot, and I'm sure you guys know this, but individual revelation and the ability to explore one's own spirituality on your own path, absence of creed and dogma, the focus and commitment to social justice and activism, welcoming people from all faith traditions, and typically a focus on peace and the democratic tradition in congregational practices. The big differences for me, and like I said, I never went to a programmed Quaker meeting, is the structure of the service and the true friendliness of the people, at least in this place. Well, we all come from different traditions. We've created this community where we all can belong and hopefully feel validated and valued. I know for me, this sense of community with people who share many of my values gives me hope and succor in a world that increasingly feels like chaos and strife. In this shared space, we can all find strength in our diversity and unity in our common goals. It restores me, and I hope it does you too. I'm going to end with a really short poem by Shel Silverstein, The Voice. There is a voice inside of you that whispers all day long. I feel that this is right for me. I know that this is wrong. No teacher, preacher, parent, friend, or wise man can decide what's right for you. Just listen to the voice that speaks inside. Thank you. And now we're going to sing hymn 142, Rise and Body Your Spirit, if you're able.
No, Let There Be Light.
Yes, and it's called Let There Be Light. Hymn 142 in the gray hymnal.
Oh
Okay. Got to remember the number here for closing words. Closing words, okay. Be ye lamps unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dreams I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. I am 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 divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Please join us in the social hall for refreshments and conversation. Thank you.